So as far back as the Psalms in our Bible, we obviously have songs of praise recorded for us, singing as a human spiritual experience. But what's really interesting historically is something called the Oxyrhynchus Hymn. Back in the early 20th century, a collection of papyri were discovered in that Egyptian city. And one of them was a Christian song. But notably, it included notation, a record of how this song was sung. Now, it doesn't sound like a song we're used to today, more like a chant, if you want to call it that. But it's really fascinating to think that we can actually recreate not just the intent or the translated words, but actually the notes and the rhythms, the melody that Christians were singing from before there was a Bible.
Even though our modern format of church, like all of this, stages and sound systems, electric instruments and microphones, 4 songs and then a sermon, all of that is a decidedly cultural artifact. But singing together, well, that has always been part of the Christian experience in some form from the very beginning. For example, there is something called the Oxyrhynchus Hymn. In 1918, a trove of papyri were discovered in the Egyptian city of Oxyrhynchus. But in there was a single papyri that has been dated all the way back to the late 3rd century. And notably, it was a song that included not just lyrics, but actually a very primitive musical notation. That means we can actually sing that song the way that it was 1,700 years ago today. Now, to be fair, it sounds more like a chant than what we're probably familiar with, but it's actually been recreated a number of times. I'm not going to play it for you for copyright reasons, but you can find renditions on YouTube. By the way, I know it's very weird that a 17-year-old 100 song can be copyrighted, but who am I to argue with the lawyers? Still, some of the lyrics say things like this. Let the stars not be silent, nor the shining moon. Let all the rivers and waters praise the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen, amen. Strength and praise, glory forever to God, the sole giver of all good things. Amen, amen. Let's get these beautiful themes of cosmic worship and creation's goodness. There's even Trinitarian language blended in there, demonstrating that Trinitarian ideas were being shaped very early in the Christian story. It's profoundly beautiful. You should definitely go check it out, even though we're probably not going to try this one on a Sunday morning. But the point is, Christians were passing around not just poetry, but also songs. They were writing songs. They were recording their notation. They were sharing that between communities and singing the same melodies together across the early story. There was melody being sung across the early church before there was even an official Bible.